Hi, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Letting everyone get in here and then we'll get started. Just a few more.
Pretty good.
All right. Yay. All right, they're still streaming in, guys. So we'll just let a few more come in, then we'll get started.
Good. We've got a couple of people who are kind of hanging, but
Oh, maybe the connection isn't fast for them.
yeah.
Hopefully everybody else can see us well here.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I miss Southern California.
Me too.
Mm.
Although now's the perfect time of year here because we're just
Yes,
starting to get into fall and it's
nice there.
cooling off.
Fall.
It's
Fall's
so
nice everywhere. It's
beautiful.
really nice where I am too. I'm in New Mexico now. Anybody else there? I still need to meet some New Mexico knitters.
So if you know any New Mexico knitters,
Yeah,
out to
reach out,
Suzanne.
please. All right, let's get started. I'm Suzanne Nielsen and Laura Cameron is with us, and we are your hosts for today. So today we get to show you the techniques used in this beautiful bejazzled. I'm never
Probably
saying it right.
bejazzle. It looks like bejazzle, but it's probably bejazzle.
Bejazzle. Shawl. It is just a really cool shawl that uses two different yarn weights. So I'm going to let Laura tell you about that a little bit later after I show a little bit of the technique. But it is really cool. You see all this open work here. But before we get into that, let's do a little bit more bookkeeping. This is, of course, sponsored by Zen Yarn Garden, and we have ChiaoGoo co-sponsoring a little bit today too. They're going to give away one fixed circular needle. So I think we can let you choose the size, but the size for this project is a size 5 circular needle. So that is what this is using. And this is I think it's the 61st, actually, Tutorial Tuesday. We made a mistake in the last one, and we missed the 60th Tutorial Tuesday. So we're doing a big giveaway this time, and Laura can tell us, because I'm taking all the...
Oh, you're fine.
I'm saying all the fun stuff, but we get to give away a $60 gift certificate.
Yeah, in honor of our 60th Tutorial Tuesday, we started these during the pandemic and we love keeping them going. And we were actually just chatting all about, we've got some fun plans for the fall. We've got a few more kits and samples. So we're super excited. So today's pattern is the Bejazzle Shawl by Dorothy Bullock Erickson. It is a pattern from Ravelry, and it is a fun pattern that combines a skein of DK weight yarn with a skein of fingering weight yarn, and it creates this really cool shawl that has all these sort of holes in it. It's I would say mesh, but they're actually much bigger holes. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I already went ahead and let's see, I have to share the right one. Let's see. Okay. This is the pattern. I think it's pronounced bejazzle. It looks to me like bejazzle, but bejazzle makes more sense. It's Dorothy Bullock Erickson, and like I said, it's a DK and fingering weight skein. I guess here it calls for sport, but we used different. She does talk about how you can pick your combo: sport DK worsted with fingering or fingering with lace weight. So that's what we chose to do. We are selling the kit, of course. And we're selling it in a variety of colors. What we started with was our jump in the pool skeins because we thought that would be fun. It would put a lot of color. And we paired that with a natural skein of DK. So you have a variety of choices. And the really cool thing about this kit is that it is not super expensive because it is one skein of natural undyed DK and one skein of something fun in a fingering weight. So if you already have some of those things at home or you have them from previous grab bags, you could totally combine them. And the kit itself is 20% off through the end of this week or through Friday, I think. Just put that in your cart. There's no discount code necessary. And check out with it. Or like I said,
That's the one I'm knitting with.
I'm sorry.
Just the last color you showed was that went through was the one mine is.
Yeah. I love the blues. So so we're going to talk to you a little bit about the techniques involved in the shawl. This one was a fun knit. It's also a knit until it's as big as you want it to be, or knit until you run out of yarn. So basically, once you do the setup, then you just keep repeating the same several rows. And then basically it says when you've almost run out of it, save just a little bit of yarn and then do this to finish. So it was really fun. And like I said, I used about 400 yards of a fingering weight and 200 yards of a DK weight. And like I said, we've got kits, or use whatever you have in your stash or leftovers from grab bags, or your very favorite skein of Zen Yarn Garden ever that you wanted to, show in something you wanted to shine. So I'm going to turn it back to Suzanne and let her go. And we will draw for the $60 gift card and the fixed needle a little bit later on this evening.
Yay. All right, so I'll just show a little bit of the shawl. You do start, start at this end. And we work some really short rows with just a little bit of the holes. So I'm going to show you these techniques. And then, like Laura says, once you get to like this point, then it's just repeating, and your garter stitch section gets bigger, but you don't have to think about it. You just knit until you get to a certain point, and then you work these big open sections. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do, and a few of the little techniques that she has you do in the pattern. So let's see if I can switch to my camera here. So I already cast on some, and I'm working. One of the nice things that she has you do is the first time, whenever you're on this side of the shawl and you're working the first stitch, you just knit the two strands together, and that helps you just not have to worry about carrying them up. I think it looks nice and tidy, and yeah, it's just a nice, easy way. So I'm about to switch colors. I was just working with the undyed DK weight skein, and now I'm going to switch and work with the Jump in the Pool fingering weight. But I get to just knit 2 stitches together first, or work the first stitch with both. And then when you come back, you'll work these as 1 stitch also. So just work them together and then just drop your yarn. This one, your yarn doesn't get twisted at all, because, wherever your yarn is, you can just start knitting and the twist will kind of work itself out. So I knit that stitch with 2 together, tighten that up. And then it doesn't really matter where your yarn is, just start working as the pattern says, and then it will all work itself out. All right, so the interesting thing with this shawl is the way that she has you bind off stitches in the middle of the row. You're also going to bind it off stitches at the beginning when we get there. But the mid row bind off and cast on, I think, might be a little bit intimidating, but that's what we're going to show you. So once you get to the end, it's just a slip on the last one. All right, so now you can see we have all these kind of sections where we're giving, like, I don't know, maybe a giant picot, if you would call it that, but we're binding off a little bit right at the beginning to get this these little ridges. And to do that, she has you purl 2. And that one is a little bit tricky. I don't know if you saw that, but this is that stitch that I slipped from the last row. But purl 2 and then bind off. And so what it is just a regular take the first stitch and slip it over the second stitch. and then she has you to say, she says in the pattern to purl again, purl one, and then bind off. So to me, that's like basically just telling you to bind off the first 2 stitches. But that's the way it's written in the pattern, so that it's easier to know what you're doing in the next bind off rows. So then we're gonna just purl 2 stitches as you do, and then we're gonna basically bind off 3 more stitches. So the pattern says then purl 1 again and then bind off. So her bind off just means take the stitch and pass it over the next stitch on your from your right needle. So we do it 1, and then another 1, 2, and 3 times. The holes get a lot bigger as they go, but right now we're still just making fairly small holes. So we just did it 3 times, and then we do a short row. So now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now instead of keeping going, I'm going to turn and work on these stitches again. So just turn the work, and then we're going to do, it's a German short row, so I'm going to show the technique for that. So normally with a German short row, you bring the yarn to the front, you slip the stitch, and then you pull that yarn over. But I'm going to show you the fast way that I do it. So you'll notice that we were purling and we just turned the work, and my yarn is to the back, but I need it to stay in the back because I'm knitting. So I'm just going to leave it back there. But as I do the slip stitch, I'm going to put my right hand needle behind the working yarn and then slip the stitch. And that kind of allows me to do it in a fast way. And now I just pull to get the legs of the stitch below to pull up and create that double stitch. So you can see that I'm just pulling the yarn kind of tight, and it's creating that double stitch. All right, is that clear? We can do that again too, but I will now just knit. And then we're going to do the cast on of stitches. So we get all these techniques kind of like right fast away. But so knit back those 5 stitches and then cast on 3 stitches. So for the casting on, she uses a backward loop cast on. So for that, I just take my thumb from behind the yarn and twist and place it on the needle. So it's just like making a little twist on the needle. So take your thumb behind and then place it on that needle. 2, 3, and then you just pick your yarn back up like normal and continue knitting. So we knit 2, but then there's one other little trick that she does. You slide those 2 stitches from the right needle back to the left needle and knit them again. That just gives you a little bit more room. And then we're going to cast on at the end of the row to get this like these little ribs. So now I'm going to do that same cast on again. So even if you normally hold the yarn in your left hand and throw, I would say you still, for the cast on, use your left hand. Would you agree, Laura? Or do you do it? Do you throw? I can't remember if you throw. So I would still use
the same way that you're doing it, except that because I knit left-handed, I actually do it with my right hand, but my stitches are going the other direction.
Right. And I'll show you, it's interesting because her shawl is backwards from mine. So it's neat. But anyway, so so I would still use your left hand on this, unless you use the opposite, then just use the opposite hand. So make a loop with your thumb and then place it on the needle. So I take my thumb behind the yarn and loop it around and then go under and grab it and pull it tight. So now let's see.
when you bind off and you're throwing, do you put the yarn in the back when you bind off?
When you bind, I don't. I keep the yarn where it is. I'll show you on the next one. I keep the yarn where it is to make it easy, and I kind of put my needle behind to do the bind off stitch. So
yeah, I do it very similarly.
Yeah, I'll do this because I think I get to do another one.
I will tell you all, so the rows get a little bit longer as you go throughout, but the same rough pattern of, I think it's either 6 rows or 8 rows gets repeated. So you will learn how to do this, and then you will just keep doing it.
All right, and I have a few more tricks. I'm going to show a few more tricks, and then I will catch up, and we'll we'll do the giveaway, and then I can show you one more time so I can look at that bind off. I'll try and throw next time so that you can see it, what it looks like differently. But there is, I think, just
a couple people who are new to German short rows, so the next time you do that, maybe talk it through a little bit.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Sometimes we have a whole nother session on that too. So
I will put a link for the YouTube tutorials in our thread, because we have done that before. Yes. So you can find all our previous ones on our YouTube channel.
Yes. All right. So now we have to knit into these stitches, which is just or not knit, but we're going to purl them, which is just a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how to do my tricks at least. So we're purling. So I'm bringing the yarn to the front. And it's just that you have to get into these little twisted stitches. So it helps to have very sharp needles like ChiaoGoo. So a couple of tricks, just make sure, remember that if your knitting tip touches the needle and you follow it, it will like let you get into that stitch. So instead of just like trying to stab it, just let your needles touch each other and then flow into that loop. Does that make sense? Maybe that's obvious, but I think especially with new knitters, it helps to remind them of that. The other reminder is that see how this loop crosses on the needle? So actually the back loop is a little easier to get in. So sometimes if I just kind of stick my needle in, kind of gets to the back loop, and then I can bring it around to the front. If things get a little tricky. But I think the easiest thing is just make sure your needle tips touch and slide your needle tip down along the left-hand needle. And then it makes it just a little bit easier to get into those tricky stitches.
I was going to say, but we just purl along. Do is try and relax your hands a little bit, because what happens when the cast on is really tight and you're trying to get into those stitches, you're pulling even tighter, and the tension pulls the stitches even tighter.
Yep. So I have this like long loop of yarn right here. So if I was really like stressed and pulling it tight, it would be pulling that loop a little tighter. But if you just relax, even push these stitches back onto the needle, it can help like loosen them back up and get them back to the right size. And then yeah, like Laura said, make sure your hands are kind of loose.
In general, I'm not a huge fan of the backwards loop cast on, because it can be a little tricky like that. But I do think in this particular pattern, it works because it gives you a really neat cast on and cast off edge that create those holes.
Yeah.
So I would use it in this pattern, even though it can be a little frustrating to sort of get the tension right.
Yes, and you'll get used to it, right? All right, so oh shoot, I know that this is a little hard to see because my stitch happens to be dark. But can you see how that one looks funky? It just looks a lot different than the other stitches. And that's because it's my double stitch. It's the DS that we created to make that short row. And so what we do is we just treat this as one stitch. So again, if you use that same technique of putting your needle tips together and just following the needle under that stitch, you won't lose any part of it. And you just work it together like it's one stitch. And then keep going. And then now, I think we can take a little break and do our giveaway, and I will catch up to the next time I'm doing all of those fancy stitches again, and we will, and I'll show you doing it the throwing way.
You are right, Susan. We are making really large buttonholes.
Yes.
So
Yep.
it's not the yarn over knit two together kind, but it's the kind where you cast off a couple and then you cast them back on in the next row, or you do the 1 row buttonhole. So that is exactly what we're doing. And you're starting with 3 stitches, and then you're going to do 4 and then 5 and then 6 and then 7. And I think we get up to 8 at the largest.
Yes.
But basically,
here, wait. I'm going to show you one more thing that just came up.
Yeah.
As I'm going, because I'm getting right back to that first stitch. And so I'm going to purl those like the DK weight yarn and the fingering weight yarn, just purl them together and treat them as one. And now I'm still I'm going to switch back to the thicker yarn. So when I switch back to the thicker yarn, I'm going to hold them both together. So I can do that. I said I was going to throw everything, but I'm awkward at that. So throw both together, and then just drop the fingering weight yarn and keep going with the DK yarn.
And the nice thing about this, the nice thing about using them both for the first stitch is that they're not going to get twisted like they sometimes do when you're trying to alternate rows. So they're basically you can have one on either side of you as you're working, and you're not going to have to like twist them over each other and bring one up and around, because you're just going to knit the first stitch with both of them.
Yeah.
So I know that this looks like it might be a little complicated, but it really is like about 6 rows in the pattern. And once you figure it out, the first section is a little bit different, only in that you're adding progressively more holes as the rows are getting a little bit longer. But then you hit a point where you're just going to knit all of it in garter or stockinette, and then you're just going to do the same section of holes at the end. So, okay. Let's go ahead and do the giveaway for the $60 gift card and the fixed circular needle. So open your chat. And my question is, this pattern uses 2 weights of yarn. What are those? Lots of answers. Lots of answers. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and take, let me see. Let's go with May Chester. So you are the winner of the $60 gift card. Go ahead and message Zen Yarn Garden in the chat, and she will make sure and get that taken care of for you. And we don't have another one scheduled just yet, but we are going to put a couple on the books for October. So I will add all of the links to the chat again. And I know that Suzanne has a few more things to show us. And if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat so we can get that.
Yeah, we covered everything already, but I'm going to show it again. Like I said, throwing, and then we'll go over that German short row again. That can be a little bit tricky. But remember, we do have all of these recorded, and this is recorded. Yeah, so you can go back and watch them. And
yes, this will be on our YouTube channel later tonight or tomorrow.
Yes. All right, so I can do show you my camera again, if I can get my tails out of the way. Okay. All right, so now I'm actually, let's see, I thought I got to repeat this one more time, but I don't. So this is a new spine. So let's see what it has in store. But again, we just knit the first 2 stitches. It doesn't tell you this in the pattern. So that is one thing that you just have to kind of remember. Every time you're on this side and you're switching colors, just work that first stitch together with both of them. And then it will all work out. So, and you can see if there's a little twist going on, but I'm just going to let it be twisty, and it will not matter. All right. And so let's see, I have a little bit of boringness to do. Any other tricks or anything I'm forgetting, Laura, that you did? Oh, I wanted to show you Laura's shawl just out of, this is like interesting to me. That Laura's, you can see how this is the right side of Laura's, and her, it's just the opposite angle of mine, and what because Laura is like a left-handed knitter. So I think that's kind of cool.
You move your stitches from the left needle to the right, and I move my stitches from the right needle to the left. So everything I do that's not a triangular shawl that's like symmetric ends up being a mirror opposite. Although I have taught myself to knit right-handed, and so sometimes when I think about it, I do it, but most often I default to, and a lot of times what I will do when I knit is I'll take the picture and then I will reverse mirror image it so that it looks like it's supposed to look.
Yeah, but it's pretty neat that, you know, it doesn't really,
that would also be why I'm in the chat in these tutorials, and why I don't show my hands on the screen, because everybody looks at what I'm doing and goes, I don't understand how you knit.
yes. Okay, and then always at the last, or most of the time at the last stitch, you do the slip one purlwise and leave the yarn to the back. All right, so now on my next row, I'll show you how I bind off with purlwise throwing, maybe. Okay, so the yarn's in the front, and that first stitch, like I said, is a bit tricky because it looks loosey-goosey, and yeah, so we'll purl it though. Purl 1, purl 2, and then bind off. So in her words, the bind off is just the act of pulling this stitch over the top of that stitch. So since I'm throwing, I'm just going to leave my yarn to the front here. And then I can take my needle in the back to pull that stitch over so that this yarn doesn't really get in the way. It probably doesn't matter that much, but anyway, let's see how it works. So now purl 1 stitch and bind off. I guess just leaving it here, and I could still go into the front over. It doesn't mess up or bother too much. So either way, I guess it's however you like to do it. But yeah, I would just leave the yarn in the front. All right, now what am I supposed to be doing here? Sorry, guys. Bind off 1, and then, okay, so now I'm gonna purl 2 stitches, and then I'm gonna do that mid-row bind off again. So, okay, so then it has we're gonna do this repeat where we purl 1 and bind off 1. Sorry, I'm getting off the screen a little bit here. So come and grab that yarn however you want to and pull it over that stitch, and then purl 1 and then grab the stitch and pull it over. So that was 2. Purl.
As you're creating the various holes in your project, you will always have 2 stitches in between each buttonhole, for lack of a better term, that will kind of define where the hole starts. So just so you know, you'll have 2 and 2 and 2 and 2.
Yeah. So now now I'm ready to do that purl 2 times. So I'll purl 2. And then I'm going to do one that's only a 3 stitch buttonhole. So purl 1.
I always thought it looks a little like Swiss cheese.
Yes. All right. 3, and then I think I get to, yeah, well, then I'm going to purl 5, and then I'll do that double stitch. All right, so 1.
A little further up on screen.
Oh, thank you. 2, it's hard when I'm throwing.
Oh, you didn't corrupt me. It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. 4.
Susan said, sorry if I corrupted you calling them buttonholes, but no, they are, they basically are. They're just really big buttonholes at certain points.
Yes. All right, so now I'm a thrower, right? But I'm ready to turn my work. So I'm going to leave my yarn kind of where it is. And as I turn it, I'm going to move my yarn to the back. Okay. And now for that double stitch, the yarn has to come to the front, but then I end up wanting it to be back behind. So all I'm going to do is take my my right hand needle and put it behind the working yarn as I do that slip. So I slip the stitch, and then I just pull tight enough that the stitch below comes up. Okay, I'm going to go slow again. So I let go. So I just did the slip stitch, but now I'm going to just take the yarn and pull it so that this bottom stitch is kind of coming up. See, so now there's like 2 legs there of that bottom stitch. And then I just continue knitting. And let's see. So I'll knit until I have to do the cast on.
Okay, I have just been informed that I made a mistake and that I was supposed to draw 2 winners because one's going to get the $60 gift card and one's going to get the needle.
Yay,
so
let's do another
back. And I'm going to go with Catherine Carr. So Catherine Carr, please go ahead and message Zen Yarn Garden and you will get your size choice of a fixed needle courtesy of Chow Group. Or should she let you know, Suzanne?
Either way, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let Zen know, or yeah, due to Zen Yarn Garden, then and then she'll send it to
me.
Sorry,
I didn't realize they were to be separate.
Yes, all right. And I didn't know see there. All right, so I just cast on, oh, and I switched the mag back. I cast on the 3 stitches, and now I'm going to knit 2. And then she has you kind of slip these 2 stitches back at this point again. Sorry, I know I'm sliding down here. So now I'm going to slip 2 stitches back and knit them again. It's almost like you're doing a little I-cord before each time, just to give yourself like a little height, I guess, there. And then to do that cast on, I am just going to drop it from my right hand and do that backward loop over your thumb. So 1, 2, 3, 4 this time. And then we'll do that. Knit 2 stitches. And then slide those 2 stitches back. And work them again. Oops.
Yeah, basically you're just creating the little kind of sawtooth wedges at the end.
Yes. And then I probably have to cast on a bunch more again, right? Yep, cast on 6. And then we'll
I know it seems fiddly as we're talking it through, but you really will get in the rhythm of this. You'll do it the first few times and then you'll be like, oh, this is all I need to do.
Yes. All right, so here I'm going to try purling again back and then get to that double stitch, and then I think we're probably way over time, huh?
We're at 6:35 or 7:35. Sorry, I'm in the Midwest, so we're at 35 past the hour, whatever that hour is, wherever you live.
All right. Again, sharp needles are a must, I think. And again, I'm sorry, I'm so awkward here. It's good for our brains to try knitting different ways.
When I knit left-handed, I'm a picker. But when I try and knit right-handed, I'm definitely a thrower.
Yes. You should knit both ways then.
I do actually. So when I'm
that?
knitting stockinette, I knit forwards and backwards sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
We've done haven't we done a tutorial on that too?
I think so. I know you've showed people how to knit backwards. I've never been able to purl backwards. I just haven't been able to wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, it's a little trick. You know what this is so useful for is if you ever are trying to teach a new person how to knit, because it makes you like remember how awkward it feels and how to like really deconstruct what you're doing.
I'm very much that way when so last night I tried to knit color work backwards.
Oh.
By basically knitting it right-handed. And it was not as successful as I would have liked, and it's certainly not something I plan to do in the future, but it was a good challenge for my brain.
Yes. All right. Any other questions before we get to this last double stitch and wrap things up? All right, I'm gonna slow down as I'm coming to it so you can see how different it looks on the needles. So it's right here. And again, it's that dark color, unfortunately, but I think you can see it.
Well, and for those who are new to German short rows, you create what's called a double stitch because you pull the legs from the previous stitch up, so it almost looks like there are two threads on the needle. Looks like
two.
And it's just a different way of doing short rows than wrap and turn or some of the other methods you may have learned. Catherine's asking, what's your progress report on the long-sleeved Zenzip tee?
I was just telling them that I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm sorry.
May,
keep asking me. I'll keep. I'll motivate myself to get that one out.
May, if you go down to the menu where it's down at the bottom of the chat window where it says to, and it should say everyone, but if you click the arrow there, you should be able to find Zen Yarn Garden in the chat, and that is who you would send your email address to.
That'll be good. All right. I promise I need to set aside some time, but new and shiny things and sitting down and focusing. It's hard to get a time enough to sit and focus and do it.
We were discussing that every time I knit a new sample or she knits a new sample, the other one wants to knit it, and we don't have enough time to knit it and do the tutorial and finish it before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah, so I have a lot of like unfinished projects. But I will thank you for you're motivating me really by asking about it. So I promise to get to it, but thank you so much for joining us. And anything else? What am I forgetting?
I don't think so. Remember that the kit for Bejazzle is on sale, 20% off through September 22nd on the website.
And it's a really like nice size shawl.
It is a really nice size
amount
shawl.
Of yarn.
And if you have a skein of DK and a skein of fingering in your stash, you can totally make that work. The tutorial will be posted probably tomorrow on our YouTube channel if you want to go back. And we also do have tutorials on things like German short rows. Like I said, we don't have dates yet, but we were just talking about the next couple samples. So we'll have some October and November tutorial Tuesdays. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.